Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Press Play Lifestyle Inspired podcast, where we do interviews with interesting and inspiring people like my new friend Andrew here to help our listeners, that's you, find the resources, tools, and support you need to be your best inspired self. And I think I hear some echo. Do you hear that too, Andrew?
Not too bad on my side, no.
All right. Well, if we keep echoing, I might have to fix that. Okay. So, Andrew, do you want to take a moment to just tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Andrew. I'm living in New Jersey. I live in actually northern New Jersey, outside of New York City. Hold on. Can you still see me?
Yep, I can.
Okay,
now you're brighter.
Yeah, for some reason you went off the screen, but there we go. Now I can see it. Sorry, but yes, I'm Andrew. I'm about 15 minutes outside of New York City in Bergen County, New Jersey. I'm an author. I wrote the book Such Unfortunates. I wrote it. It's based on my life experience. I wanted to help people avoid similar things that I've been through. More about me. I'm engaged to be married. I have a great fiance. We've been together for almost 4 years now, and we have 2 dogs, 3 cats, and all rescues, and 2 stepchildren. So we're all hanging in here with this COVID-19 thing, and just happy to be here, happy to be on, happy to talk about my story. I really appreciate you having me on with this.
Oh, thank you. We love having people on, especially if they have great stories to tell. So I'm really interested. You kind of said briefly in your intro there that you wrote the book partially to help others avoid some mistakes that you've made. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. Well, the book is, I suffered a horrible drug addiction in my life, and the book goes through, it starts off with my childhood. My childhood was not the ideal childhood. I had a very abusive childhood. I had one very sick parent, 2 sick parents, but one very sick parent. And there was a lot of abuse in my household. And I go through that in the book. Before I ever touched a drug, I believe I was sort of an addict. I was addicted to anything. Drugs were really the symptom of something that was going on inside of me. And so that abuse, I take the reader, the book starts out, and it starts out with where I had ended up in Camden, New Jersey, homeless, basically at the bottom of the bottom, the low as you can go. And then I take the reader through how I got to that point. It starts off in my childhood, and what growing up was like, and the effects of that. I went to doctors and I was prescribed medication, but they never looked at the root cause. I was having really bad anxiety attacks. So at 14, I started believing I was dying of a heart attack. And by the time I was 19, I think I took myself to the hospital 44 times, to the emergency room, really believing I was dying. So you can imagine a child going through high school every day, oh my God, I'm going to die. That really starts to wear on you. So a doctor at 14 prescribed me an adult dose of Xanax. And, it never really looked at the root problem. It was just, you take this drug and it'll work. But I took the drug, and the drug built up a tolerance. You start becoming addicted. And it never solved anything, and that taught me from a very young age that if you had a problem, there was a chemical solution to it. And so, in high school, I started drinking a lot too, to deal with anxiety and depression, which were a direct result of my really messed up childhood. One of the things that I never have heard a parent say, I love you. And for somebody that is used to that, it may not be that big. They may not think, I mean, maybe they do, but it's, when you don't hear that and somebody says it to you for the first time, it's kind of like an awkward thing. You're like, wow. But not dealing with everything that I had inside of me from that manifested in a way. I barely made it through high school. I went to college somehow. And, I ended up failing out of college because I wasn't going to class. And, once I got out of college, my drug use really progressed to the point where I found Oxycontin. And that was like the miracle solution to all my problems. When I took that pill, the depression went away, the anxiety went away. I felt great. I felt like normal people felt during their day. I could get up, could be motivated about life. Because what I strongly believe is when a child is abused, they don't develop the natural chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine. They don't have the same levels as a child that's been loved and raised, family with love. So for me, just waking up and going through my day I was never excited about my day. It was like, oh my God, here's another day, no matter what it was, whether it was school, whatever it was boring, it was miserable. And I just looked at making it through the next day with as little pain as possible. I never looked at a future, a career, or, I never really had that direction where other kids are like, oh, I want to be this in the future. I was like, I just want to get through the next day without dying. And so it really got bad for me once I got on the Oxycontin, and I felt that. I didn't ever want to be without that feeling. Never. Because I felt that and I felt great. So as soon as that started to wear off, I wanted another one. And as you can imagine, your body becomes addicted, your tolerance builds up. And, before I knew it, I was taking 12 Oxycontin, 80 milligrams a day, which is in one Oxycontin 80 milligram, there are 12 Percocet, or is it 14 Percocet 5 milligrams? The Percocets are 14 in each one of those. And I was taking 12 of those a day. So that's like 130 Percocets a day, every day. And so it was when I tried to stop that, the withdrawal I went through hell like I could never imagine. So it got to the point where even if I wanted to stop, I couldn't, because the physical withdrawal was so awful. And I get into that in the book, and I describe that. So that led me to my first rehab. And one of the things that I get into the book is why the rehabs are failing, why we have such a problem in this country. They say the whole country almost feels like it's addicted to opiates. And I get in, and the rehabs have like a 3% success rate, because all they did was they bring you in, they take the drugs out, and then 30 days later they put you back, and you're the same person. They don't look at fixing what was wrong with you. So the same person, yes, they're drug free. You did that. That's good. I'm not saying, but they're being thrown right out in the street with, it's just a matter of time. That's why they have a 3% success rate. No one said, hey, why are you doing this stuff in the first place? We need to heal what's going on. It was just get the drugs out, and that was it. That's all they wanted to focus on. Drugs are bad. You do them, you're going to go to jail. And that solved nothing. I'd see people that get arrested as soon as they get out of jail, they're using drugs again. It didn't solve anything.
Yeah, and I think you had mentioned this. Actually, I've heard it like 6 or 7 times so far, so just curious.
Sure.
In a positive way, but you, like, way at the very beginning, you talked about the anxiety attacks and the pill, but no root cause. And then you talked about the drinking and the being a teenager, but no root cause. And then you talk again about Oxy and feeling finally like emotion, essentially, right? Feeling like
exactly.
some things were there.
Feels good.
But then you go to rehab and no root cause. And so it feels to me like there's this just a string of events of people continuing to let you down, right?
Yes.
To where you get to a point where that's all you actually know is how to be let down. And so, of course, how do you show up for yourself? Right. If you're always let down. So yeah. Did you get to is the root cause like another bunch of rehab visits later?
Yes.
How did you get to the root cause? Like, was that less pills, more pills, therapy, great wife, dogs? What happened?
Right. What ended up happening was it was a bunch of rehabs later. Like, I had to get to the point, you'll see in the book, where I ended up switching from Oxycontin to heroin because it was cheaper. It's the same thing. People hear the word heroin and they think, oh my God, but it's the exact same thing. And I ended up on the streets, homeless, without, I really was at the point where I was just going to die. There was just no way around it. I had actually died. I'd overdosed a few times and had to be brought back, and I had almost froze to death one night. So, and I get into that in the book. But they say there's 3 ends to addiction: the jails, institutions, and death. And I had been to all of them. And so there was just a matter of time before I was going to die. And in the book, these people who I consider them angels, and I'm still in contact with everyone except one today. And I wish I could contact her. But while I was homeless, a woman who worked at a hospital near me came to me and tried to help me. And it was amazing. And I still get chills when I think about it. This woman knew nothing about my story, knew nothing about anything. And she came to me and I'm a homeless guy in Camden, New Jersey, the worst city in the world. And this woman was not afraid to come up to me, anything. She said to me, I wanted to tell you something. I was an alcoholic. She said, I was abused by my father, and you have to forgive the person who abused you, not for them, but for you. And I was like, and she didn't know anything about me. I was just like, and it was a realization that I just was like, wow. And then two other people, one I can mention is, Kelly Ripa, the talk show host.
Yeah.
Her father actually helped me out. And we're still friends to this day on Facebook. We talk every day. He helped me get into treatment. And it was really nice. He's a great man, and he does a lot for a lot of people. So he really is an awesome man. We talk almost every day now. So it's and he's been real proud of the book and everything. So he's been a big supporter of mine since then. And so I ended up going to North Jersey into treatment, and I don't want to give too much away, but basically one other person, the person I'm engaged to right now, was the first person that really showed unconditional love in my life, which I had never had before, and sort of inspired me through her to talking about what was wrong with me. And until I got to talking about stuff that I swore I would never talk about, I was going to take it to my grave, and that was it. Just when you're a kid and you deal with something that's happened to you, it's just, you don't want to talk about that. And I swore I would never do it, but I did. And it wasn't until talking about that I was able to really heal. So it was a combination of getting that out, being honest, and telling everything to another person, and then working on that, getting someone to love me, that just for me. There's no other reason, nothing on, outside. You have to, it was just, and being in the right place, I'd say, at the right time to get help from the right people. I went to a long-term treatment center, and when I got out of there, it was difficult, but I did it. And eventually, after a couple of years, I was inspired to write the book because my friend's mom had asked me. She said, her son had died, her son had overdosed, and she wanted to know more about it. And she came to me, and after talking to me, she was like, I wish I had spoke to you before he had passed away. But she's like, I feel so much better after talking to you. She's like, you could help so many people out if you just shared your experience. And so I was like, you know what, book? Because when I was in rehab, I actually wrote a couple of paragraphs, and a woman that ran the rehab was like, this stuff is awesome, you should write a book. So and then a bunch of people told me I could never write a book. They said everyone says they're going to, and they never do it. It's too hard. And I was like, all right, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And so
Now
I
I'm
sat
doing
down,
it.
I did it.
Tell me I can't.
Yes, now I'm absolutely doing it. And so that's basically the book in a nutshell. And I wanted other people to see that if someone as bad as me could make it, they could make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's a beautiful story of healing, right?
yes.
I mean, it does show. I mean, one thing I related to that you said, and I would say it's slightly different from my perspective. I went through a dark period as well. I grew up similar stuff, similar sick type things with parents, 4 stepdads, that kind of thing. And
Okay.
I remember people would say, "How you doing?" And my self-defense mechanisms is kind of pretending I was being funny, but I'd say, "Hey, I didn't jump today," but I actually
Right.
meant it. Like,
Right.
the day went well because
Sure.
I'm here, didn't jump,
Right.
Um, and when other people were like I was living for the day to end so that I could sleep and start
Right.
over the next day. And luckily I didn't have to go through the addiction in the way that you're talking about, but you did pinpoint something I hope the listeners heard, and if not, I'd like you to expand on it if you can.
Sure.
But
Sure.
addiction, when you grow up in kind of that fractured way or broken kind of way, even if you're younger or you don't go to opioids or you don't go to oxy, it's almost as if you have an addiction to fill in a blank. It's like the poo-poo platter of
Sure.
addictions. It can be
Absolutely.
sex, it's drugs,
Food,
it's
sex, gambling, anything.
gambling, high risk, high, because it's almost
Just
the
gets you
only
outside of
way.
yourself.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and that's absolutely,
And I got
you know,
really blessed and I'm still thankful, but I got addicted to books. So I like would read a whole book every day, like thick, huge books.
really.
Positive outcomes, right? I
Yeah,
was able, but
sure.
just as likely it could have gone any other way,
Any other way,
any
yes.
other way. And I think
Be
that's
thankful it
what's
didn't.
huge important, right? To just like careful when you're judging, be more curious because a lot of other
And a lot of
people,
people have said that after reading my book, have said the same thing. You have no idea how many people have contacted me. And I guess after I shared everything and got it out, they've been like, you know what? I actually went through this. And I guess they feel, I don't know, more easy telling me about their stuff because I've shared so much. And I was surprised how many people have dealt with a lot of stuff. And a lot of, almost everyone that has an addiction in their background, if you look, I mean, there's some root cause to it. I mean, it's always there, whether they admit it or not, when it comes around to it. Like, I really do believe, and I don't know if it's brain chemistry that's just it, but the traumatic experience from a messed up childhood will definitely, like you said, you will search for something that gets you outside of yourself, something feeling. So,
yeah. And I, like I said,
yeah,
for me, if it was reading, but it wasn't like reading like books that were going to make me smarter. It was reading fantasy or sci-fi, like where I could live in
get you
Mars or
outside. Right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
not
Sure.
be in that place. Um,
Absolutely.
so you mentioned another different distinction that I haven't actually heard before. So I thought if you wouldn't mind explaining the difference
Sure.
other than the obvious, but you did say at the end you sort of went into a longer term treatment. Is that is there a big significance other than longer than 30 days with short versus long term?
I mean, I would recommend the longer term for people just because, especially with opiates, they're your first 30 days. I mean, you're not even
You're just
feeling
DT in, right?
the withdrawal is not only physical, the physical part is horrible. And the more you use, the longer it can be. I mean, it can be months for some people, and it's awful. It's the worst thing. The withdrawal from opiates is the worst feeling on earth. I've read every book that I've read of a famous person that has written a book about says the same thing. And it's just, there's nothing that compares to it. People say the flu, that's not even, it's like describing an ant to a dinosaur. Like it's that awful. And I tried to get into the book and make it clear to people how bad it really was. Um, but I don't know. I think people need to, I don't know. I forgot. I lost my train of thought when we
Yeah,
were
so I'll
coming
come
back
back.
there.
So the question was, and I think you did answer it actually, was, is there kind of, other than the duration, is there a difference between the short term and long term facility?
It's just, I think it gives more time. Like basically what I was saying, it gives more time because of you're taking in 30 days, your brain isn't, you're getting out of there and you're still craving and you're still, if you can get 6 months in a treatment center, that's when your brain starts to heal, and that's much better chance if you get out of there because you're in sort of a safe space, when they're in there. I think it's a much better chance of 6 months if you have luckily there's a place called Integrity House here, which is a long-term program that I was able to go to. Blessed for them. I heard bad things about it and it's not nice and cushy. I've been to a fancy 30-day rehab and it did nothing for me. And the place wasn't bad. I mean, there was nothing bad about it, but I needed that. I really did. I needed that 6 months to be in there and really get myself together. And I would recommend that. If
Yeah.
all you can do is 30 days, that's great, but I would recommend the longer term.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and so I think what I heard you say, which I have family who've gone through similar things. Yes, it's great. You get that first 30 days, you can get through the physical stuff, but you can't actually deal with the mental stuff when you're still in the physical. So you need to be
No.
done with sort of
Yes.
withdrawing and DTing and sweating and feeling like you're going to die. You can't deal with mental stuff when you're
No.
worried about dying, right?
Absolutely not. Right.
So you
Exactly.
need that next
That
step to get over physical stuff. Once you get over the physical stuff, be supported in a physically stable place with the mental
Right.
instability, and then kind of move from there. Is that sort of
Exactly.
what went better
The
for you?
30 days was modeled around alcohol, which, in a week after stopping drinking, you're back there mentally where you really were. Actually, and people at 4 days are back, but with opiates, it's such a longer thing. It's such a more drawn out, extended, awful, you know, it's not, you're not in reality. So it's
Yeah.
really, your serotonin's not there. It's just a mess.
I think the other thing that I hope people gathered from your story, and I hope they all buy the book, we'll definitely put the link in the comments and any other
Okay, great,
detail.
great. Thank you.
But of course, no, thank you for taking the time to write it
Sure.
and share with us. But you didn't start out like shooting up in a back alley kind of thing, right?
No.
Like opiate, you were prescribed this.
Yes,
And so when people are like,
correct.
oh, there's not really an opioid problem in our society, there's not really this, there's not really that. I've heard my sister's in jail right now. She's been there a
Right.
year plus, still not
Okay.
yet been sentenced because she was taking a control. She was on oxy after a
Right.
surgery 6 years
Right.
later, and
Right.
she hit someone head on. Right, it's a
I know
horrible story
that.
for them, horrible for her. But she didn't start out
Of course.
doing something like that. She was prescribed by a doctor who she trusted because she was in pain, and now you're a homeless man.
Right.
Like, it's
Exactly.
that fast. So I think we
Oh,
have to,
happens.
yeah, really roll back the judgment and go, be
Yeah.
curious. Like, how did Andrew land here? And it sounds like
Yep.
your first angel, that first woman that was like, you've got to forgive yourself. She knew you don't begin homeless, right? There's all
Right.
of this before.
She was an amazing person. So,
So
yeah.
so I feel like this is the sad part, but like, is there anything that people who have see their loved ones maybe struggling through this, is there anything that they can do or be or in some way support their loved ones
Sure.
without
Sure.
being like contributing? Like how?
Exactly. There's a point, and people get this wrong. They either take tough love to an extreme, or they don't do it enough. Okay, and the extreme would be, I'm done with you forever. Goodbye. Don't ever talk to me. You're a drug addict, and that's not going to help anybody. And if you don't love your person, that's fine. That's what people do. But the other extreme would be, I'm giving you money to go buy drugs whenever you want. And it's there has to be a balance between the two. Okay, and you don't want to support somebody's drug habit, and if you do that, they're not going to get better. They're just not. I get there are times parents have just had no other choice but to give their kid $20. That doesn't mean they're at fault for their addiction, and
Right.
it's nonsense. But the ultimate thing is to tell whoever, your child or your loved one, that if they seek help, you will be there to support them. If they don't, you can't keep going and giving them money, and can't let them kill himself type of deal and let them keep doing this. As long as they seek help and are looking to better their life, you will be there for them. And that is the best advice I can give someone that is a relative that has people. Do not say, oh my God, you're done, I'm cutting you off for the rest of your life. That's just, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and I
It doesn't.
wondered about that because what you said way at the very very beginning was, I want to say it was your spouse or you're engaged with now, your
Yes.
future wife.
Future wife.
Yeah, she is like the first person that told you she loved you and meant it
Right.
unconditionally, and probably was very
Correct.
weird, right? Feeling that, not
Yes.
knowing even how the heck to process that. So
Sure.
if no one ever loved you, right? So I think that you can't cut everyone off, because then why be around if no one loves you anyway? So
Right. Right. Exactly.
so it's like,
Right.
don't cut them off. You can still love someone. You don't have to love their circumstances. You don't have to love their choices. You don't have to give them
Right.
money to go get high, but you can give them a
Right.
cheeseburger and you can tell them you love them and you can be there later. I mean, is that kind of,
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That's, and you want them to feel like if they do the right thing, then they have your support. Not that, no matter what they do, you're done with them forever. But if they do the right thing, it's an incentive for them to get better. So no one's going to get better until they want to. If they don't want to get better, you can put them in, you can spend $1 million on the nicest rehab and they're going to walk out of there and get high. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
So there has to either be enough pain or enough motivation or the healing. But most people won't get to that. I'm going to share and I'm going to heal unless there is pain. Pain's a great motivator. It really is, sadly.
Yeah, it
But
was also, it sounds like it was a great motivator to stay an addict too, because withdrawal
oh
is,
yeah,
you said, is literally
absolutely.
the worst thing you've
Yep.
ever been through in your life. We're
Yes.
more apt to get away from pain than we are to go toward pleasure.
Oh,
How do you
absolutely.
not, how do you not, how do you make it through that at all without support?
In the book, I took a hammer and broke my hand to get painkillers when I was in withdrawal. So,
Because it hurt less. Yeah. Oh,
oh, a lot less. I mean, could you imagine smashing your hand with a hammer? Like now, I'm like, it's crazy. But in that point, because I had gone to an ER and they said, if you don't have broken bones, we're not giving you any painkillers. So I said, all right,
all
I'm
right.
back.
Well, we'll solve that problem.
That's all right. And that's how crazy. So just to give you an idea of how bad withdrawal is, and especially when you've been at that point and using that much. If somebody takes it for a week and stops, they may feel a little uncomfortable. They're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. But imagine doing what you took in a week, I take in 3 minutes. I take 100 times that a day for years and stopping.
Yeah. So I think the
And
other thing we could caution people too is, I've had this family members as well, where they're all of a sudden now we're worried about opioid addiction, which is good, but then they cut them off.
right,
Like they take away the 500% that you're doing right and say, okay, you can
right,
have like this. They're still all going to
right.
go through all these major withdrawals, and I think that's when
That's
desperate.
not the right solution either. Just
Right.
cutting someone right off is crazy.
Yeah.
That's horrible. That's going to send someone to go get heroin. And
Right.
you should never just, oh, so we don't, and doctors are doing that now. They don't want to get prosecuted. So the patient comes in, I can't give you any more. Take some Tylenol. Like,
Yeah.
I made all this money off you and got all this from Purdue, sent me all this extra money for writing OxyContin, but now who cares about you?
Yeah. So this.
They swear to do no harm, but that's leaving someone like that is one of the worst things you can imagine. If you knew what withdrawal, and I tend to believe a doctor has an idea, just being a medical doctor. But, I've seen some doctors that are great and some that are awful. I mean,
Yeah.
just should not have a medical license.
Yeah.
They're
Well, there's
drug
good
dealers
people
with
and
a medical
awful
license.
people, right? There's good people and
It's
bad
true.
people in every
Yep.
profession. So
Yep.
I thank you so much for, I'm
Sure.
my number one most important thing I say, because we've all had our stories, is I feel like if we don't talk about it, we keep bringing it back. We keep bringing it
Yep.
about, right? And so your bravery in A, like making it through something like that, and then B, writing a book, even everyone said you couldn't and you wouldn't be able to get it done.
Right. Right.
Hopefully that will help someone either seek treatment sooner, or a family member give some middle of the road love and not cut you off kind of love.
Right.
If you had any parting words for an addict who's trying to figure out how to move out of where they are, what
Okay.
advice would you give the addict? Not the parents, all of that's great, but the person who was like you, what would you say to them if you saw them on the side of the
Um,
road like the angel saw you?
right. I guess the best advice. I mean, if one thing that I always say to people, I'm like, if I could do it, you could do it. I want people to know, because a lot of times people will get up and try to talk to addicts, and the person will be like, you don't know anything about. So I would say, I had been where they are. I know what it's like. I know how you feel. I know how awful it is living this life. I know that they probably wouldn't get up to leave to go to rehab just because they don't want to be sick for the trip up there, and they don't, and all this stuff. So I understand where they're from, but there is a better way, and it's such a better way than living that life and being a prisoner in your own body and not having, destroying everything. I
What's
just,
better about it? What's better about it?
everything. You don't
Everything?
have to wake up sick every day. You have money in your wallet. I have a car. I have a credit card. a bank account. I'm talking to you on my computer where I pay all my bills, and I'm not going to jail. I'm clean. I have a woman that loves me. I have pets. I have a job. All these things that I took for granted in life, always, I never appreciated. Now, just having money in my wallet and waking up not sick, I'm like, this is awesome. Like, even my fiance is like, you're so happy about the littlest things, because I am. I appreciate that stuff. Like, just having heat when you've lived without heat in the winter. And I really almost, I got, what's that called? When you
Hypothermia?
freeze.
Hypothermia?
Hypothermia, yep. And pneumonia at the same time, being in an abandoned house, sleeping in the snow, So I just having heat is like the blessing. So there's so much that I appreciate. And that's my goal, is to start a foundation. I'm trying to do it right now. I have a GoFundMe page. If you search Such Unfortunates, you'll see there's GoFundMe. I was doing a radio interview in Seattle, and the host was like, what's your idea for this rehab? And I told him I want to start a rehab that's half an animal shelter. I believe animals have a huge healing impact on addicts, because addiction is such a selfish disease. And so the addicts would help with the animals, would be like therapy towards them, because they would have to give, and the love they get back from the animal is so healing. So that would not be the only part of it, but I want to have it double as a no-kill animal shelter. And I would want one in every state if I could, but I'm just trying to start the first one. So I have the whole idea up on GoFundMe. So a few people have donated, so it's nice.
Yeah,
And I'm giving
so
a percentage of the book's proceeds to it.
make sure you
So
share with us. I don't have the GoFundMe piece, but we actually will put you out on Facebook, YouTube, and on our podcast. And
great.
we can put your GoFundMe information in there as well, if that's something.
Okay, I'll share. I'll send it to you in the email. I'll send it to you. But yeah, I appreciate that. That's sweet. So we've slowly got there. A few dollars. I got a little bit more from the book, but I would love to get there. I'd love to have. I believe I do everything that I saw was that people did right and more, and the stuff they were doing wrong in the rehabs, I take that out. So
well,
I really think I could help a lot of people.
You've been there,
and animals. So
I love it. Well, Andrew, thank you so very much for your time. I'm sorry we ran a little long, but it was just a very compelling story.
Yes.
And we'll make sure to put all your information in the show notes. And thank you so much again for taking your time today.
Thank you very much. And if you just let people know, the book is Such Unfortunates by Andrew Mann, and it's on Amazon. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right. It was very nice talking with you.
Bye.
Bye now.